If this video found you, you're probably a very ambitious woman. You probably consume a lot of Hermosi, a lot of Layla and Alex, Huberman, Goggins, all the sorts. So you know ball when it comes to self-help. But what does modern day ambition for women actually look like? The most influential self-help guru in my life wasn't Huberman or Hermosi or Goggins. They are all great and I learned a lot from them. It was actually Elle Woods, specifically Legally Blonde. And using Elle Woods as a self-help figure, I know, it sounds crazy. She wears pink, she's fabulous, she's extra, but she's taught me a lot about feminine ambition. Now, don't get me wrong, I've learned a lot from the male self-help world, or the self-help world in general. This is not gonna take value away from that because these frameworks work. But what these frameworks don't do is show women how to not lose their edge, their personality, their femininity. First, I wanna ask you how many self-help gurus you follow, how many podcasts you listen to, and sometimes you're like, yeah, this is something I could listen to in my hot girl walk, but something feels flat sometimes, which is why I love the upcoming female podcast of like Hot, Smart, and Rich, or Working Hard, Hardly Working, because it really breaks the stigma of feminine ambition being so like, oh my God, locked in, serious girl boss, when in reality it's just another archetype and trend that trends every few years. What I want this video to do is show you the lessons from Legally Blonde. That is not gonna be a trend. The principles that you can use that are going to evolve over time, because my ambition has evolved over time and I can imagine it has for you as well. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you've watched Legally Blonde or at least are familiar with some iconic lines from this movie. But if you've not, here's a quick too long don't read version, a spark note summary if you will. Is Elle Woods is a blonde girl playing a stereotype, very dumb blonde, and she goes to Harvard because her boyfriend breaks up with her saying she's not serious enough. And she actually does it to prove a point. And her character is very flamboyant, feminine, and extra, and I love it. So let's get straight into the lesson. Lesson one. One of the most iconic lines in cinema history. What? Like it's hard?
Who got into Harvard Law?
What, like it's hard?
Those three words is iconic. But what's even more important is it completely dismantles the way we approach fear. Because what Elle Woods does in that moment is something that we have actually been conditioned to come out of. She immediately disarms the fear. She doesn't sit in it, she doesn't dabble with the fear, she just leads with faith. And here's the thing I want you to understand about faith. Faith and fear both require belief in an unseen reality. They work the exact same way psychologically. They both require you to believe in something you can't see yet. The difference is what type of future are you believing in? Because only one creates a better reality. So what Elle Woods does is she has faith. She goes first. And a lot of that is probably delusion as well. Every major transformation in my life looked irrational at first. People called me delusional when I said I wanted to start bodybuilding. People called me delusional when I started a business during a pandemic. Like, people literally called me insane before I did the damn thing. I started posting on Instagram, like a fitness accountability accounts in high school, like 2017 or 2016. I remember the boys in my school being like, what are you doing? Like, why are you so obsessed with yourself? Well, first, if I'm not obsessed with myself, then who would be? Like, I should be my own biggest fan, right? And second, I feel like I was ahead of my time. I don't have a big account or anything like that, but I've been able to storytell and be able to build a successful business because I did what most people thought was insane at the time. Here are some prompts I want you to reflect on when it comes to feeling ready or starting. Why am I acting like certainty is going to eventually arrive and hand me permission? What's the worst actual possible outcome? And finally, what if it worked out beyond what you imagined? Because I'm noticing a trend in every major transformation when I build a successful business. When I lost over 70 pounds and do it over and over again. When I finally met such amazing people in my life. The breakthrough never came because I felt ready. It's because I decided to be ready, to go first, to count 3, 2, 1 and go on 2. That's how I view making big decisions as well. Whether I want to buy something, invest into something, I go first. Lesson 2. When I was first starting, I felt like an imposter. Until I realized the pressure to be taken seriously is actually what makes you forgettable. Even though I had a ton of evidence, a ton of proof, there was an element of feeling like I'm not gonna be taken seriously. I have this amazing university degree that I'm never gonna use. I decided to start this thing online. I'm never gonna be taken seriously by my parents' friends, by my Asian aunties, or even people in the world I grew up in. I went to international school and it was a very high performing environment. I had a good upbringing, but I definitely did not fit the archetype of rich international school kids. When I moved back from university, it was during the pandemic, right? I started my business during a pandemic because I'm like, what's the worst that's actually gonna happen? Like all the job opportunities I had lined up at the door, I'm like, let me just do this thing for a while. And it blew up and I'm like, oh, this could be a thing. But I had this fear of not being taken seriously. The specific moment in the movie is when Warner breaks up with Elle.
Well, you know how we've been having all kinds of fun lately?
Yeah.
Well, Harvard is going to be different. Law school is a completely different world, and I need to be serious.
Of course.
I mean, my family expects a lot from me.
Right.
I expect a lot from me. I plan on running for office someday.
And I fully support that, Warner. You know that, right?
Absolutely. But the thing is, if I'm going to be a senator by the time I'm 30, I need to stop dicking around.
Warner, I completely agree.
Well, that's why I think it's time for us. Elle. Pooh Bear.
Yes.
I think we should break up.
What?
Well, I've been thinking about it, and I think it's the right thing to do.
You're breaking up with me? I thought you were proposing.
Proposing? Elle. If I'm gonna be a senator, well, I need to marry a Jackie, not a Marilyn.
So you're breaking up with me because I'm too blonde?
He decides to break up with her because for his image, she didn't look serious enough. That she was too much for him. And girly, if you've ever felt like too much and that you need to be more palatable, tone it down, start to edit yourself in sentences, pause. And I want to talk about that because I think a lot of us have had a Warner in our life. Not necessarily a person, right? It could be a space, a room, an industry. For me personally, I started coaching in 2021 and I will stand on this. I think I'm one of the first online coaches to do it the way I did in Thailand, okay? A Thai person anyways, to do high ticket coaching with this model, with this systems and everything like that. And people didn't take me seriously. They're like, oh, when is this fun little project gonna be over? Like, when are you gonna get a real job? Those same people are asking me to go for coffee and pick my brain now. No shade, but just saying. And I felt this need to like put out such educational content to, build authority. I was starting to remove things from my online presence and business and personal brand that felt too feminine, too fun. And this was the same thing when I had a mentor, right? They wanted you to be watered down, fit the framework. Oh no, that's too much. Oh no, that would make you lose authority. Oh no, like that's not really, and that's a problem with frameworks, right? They're just frameworks, they're guidance. This was a framework, has a lot of value here, but you decide to take a longer route, the more colorful route, the more scenic route. There's nothing wrong with that. If she kept performing for Warner, she's gonna lose the exact thing that makes her Elle. Her aura, her essence. A lot of ambitious women make the mistake of thinking to get to their next level that they have to become less of themselves. To an extent, yes, a part of you is going to die. I know, harsh, brutal, but like your old identity is going to die. You're not chasing to become someone else. You're chasing to become the highest version of yourself. And that's the difference, right? Like what Warner does is he's comparing Elle to other women. And what some of us do sometimes is we compare ourselves to other big figures in the space, whether that's a guru, another person in your industry, your friend, your cousin. Sometimes we slip into the tendency to compare. When we talk about law of attraction, let's say like a lot of people are in this weird purgatory. They're performing, being palatable. That doesn't attract and it also doesn't repel. So they're like pleasing everybody. And when you please everybody, you actually please nobody, especially not yourself. The most important person is you do not please yourself. When you actually act in alignment of your highest self, when you are putting yourself in proximity of people, opportunities, you start to attract and magnetize the most aligned things ever. And you go this direction. This is where you attract, right? The part that people don't like is not everybody's gonna like you. And that's actually the most magical thing because the more you attract, the more you repel. And you want to repel. You have to get over your fear of being seen and being perceived. Your fear of being perceived is holding you back from your dream life. Your presence is your superpower. It's your differentiator. Do not ever edit it or shrink it down. Okay, quick pause. Lesson 3 is actually my favorite and it ties to this one really nicely. If you're watching this in the middle of a breakup, a career pivot, and transition in your life, and honestly, any season of your life that is not looking like you thought it would, this next lesson is going to hit, girl. Pain is the catalyst, not your fuel. So Warner's breakup with Elle hurt her. It really hurt her. What I love about Elle's story is that her motivation to go to Harvard Law School didn't really come from her own free will, right? And that's what we've been taught to like not do. Like, okay, do it for yourself, girl. You gotta do it for yourself. That's important, but that's not actually how it starts for a lot of women, not myself anyways. And even though consciously I said, I'm doing this for myself. If you've been bullied, shamed, and you've had any experience in your upbringing, that is going to be a catalyst for your transformation, right? And I think a lot of people won't admit that the reason their journey started is not always from an empowered place. But it changes, and it's really important it changes. At first, Elle absolutely wants Warner back. So bad she applied for Harvard. Most transformations don't start from enlightenment, of like, I am confident and ready, but I want to be even more confident. And maybe kids that grow up in this era would have more conversation, more self-awareness than we did in the early 2000s, where it was like skinny prime era, like early 2000s, America's Next Top Model, Tyra Banks, like all that. Like when we grew up in that, it's almost impossible to start a fitness journey from a completely empowered place, right? Let's be fucking for real. A lot of women who grew up in the 2000s probably dealt with shame, insecurity. Like if you've had Ask FM before, Facebook statuses, like we were living in such an unhinged era. Right now we're living in an era of like Gen Z, brain rot. I can't even keep up with the terms anymore. But if you grew up in the 2000s, that was a different era. Like what? I low-key think that I wanted people from my past to see me differently. And like I disappeared from like social media for like 6 months, and I posted this like really shredded photo, like don't underestimate what 6 months of focus can do or something. Let me see if I can clip it. It really sums up my point here, like don't underestimate what 6 months can do. But I think the subconscious like belief under it of like, oh, like you've underestimated me all along. And that's not how I operate anymore, but I was young. And I think a lot of women have a version of that story. A lot of women have coached anyways. The mistake isn't really starting there, it's staying there. And that's the work I do with my clients. Is like, hey, whatever the reason that you want to start, if you have a strong fucking why, you're going to alchemize that pain into power, baby. A lot of women come to me saying that they want to make fitness sustainable, right? And the only reason it's going to be sustainable is when it's no longer you operating from lack, scarcity, and shame. The reason has to evolve. It stops becoming about proving something, and it starts being about becoming your higher self. Becoming the version of you who strives for more. Everyone has a thing, a person, a job, a version of themselves that didn't choose them. It's not always external, right? Like you could embed in yourself as well when you were growing up. Something that overlooked them, that made them feel like an underdog. That said, explicitly or not, you're not the right fit. The shift, and the real shift, is there's a part of your journey where all of that changes. There's no longer outsourcing motivation, outsourcing your self-worth. All your superpower comes within because you've gathered so much fucking evidence. You've stacked up so much proof that you can do it. You've done it. You've done it many times. You cannot wait for confidence to come because it comes after you do the action and create the evidence. It's not going to happen overnight. It can happen quickly, don't get me wrong, but for Elle, she started by trying to win Warner back. But then she actually starts loving the law.
And for that matter, all masturbatory emissions where his sperm was clearly not seeking an egg could be termed reckless abandonment.
I believe you've just won your case.
Body and business works the same way. It can start with pain. And the woman who really changed and kept their results wasn't just because they found the best diet and best training program ever. It's because they stopped doing it for the Warner in their life. The version of themselves that was still outsourcing their self-worth and motivation and started creating internal proof instead. They started doing it for themselves, truly. Your femininity is not a thing to manage. It's something you can weaponize. And this is one of the most important lessons from learning from a lot of male self-help gurus, a lot of male mentors, and a lot of male figures in my life, honestly. Masculinity and femininity exist, right? Like, we're not gonna get into all of that. But a woman can be masculine and feminine. A man can be feminine and masculine, too. The problem is when women dilute their femininity to fit in a certain room or to play a different character to be accepted. If it's one thing Elle Woods will do, is she will serve on the stand and in her outfit.
Oh, hi. My name is Elle Woods, and for my admissions essay, I'm going to tell all of you at Harvard why I'm going to make an amazing lawyer. As president of my sorority,
I grew up absorbing a very masculine blueprint for success. Goggins, audiobook when I was doing my bodybuilding prep, Hermosi when I was learning how to create content for my business. And you know what? They worked. They generally worked. I was disciplined as fuck. My previous coach told me that my last prep was like a Goggins prep because, different story, but it was a really aggressive prep. This is your first impression of me. I know I'm talking about femininity, but there was a large part of my life where I literally was embodiment of hustle, work hard. And I don't even resent that part, okay? This is not the point of the lessons I'm giving here at all. I do not resent the lessons from the masculine side or the masculine values. It's built me standards I don't compromise on. I don't people please. I'm very firm, I'm very direct. I also like beauty, I like fashion, I like dressing up, I like wine and yap with the girlies. I like talking about money and business. I like conversations about psychology, subconscious, and identity. I like them all, and I think that's what the framework and blueprints of these like self-help gurus miss, is how a woman can be very multifaceted. She can be multidimensional. She can be that and this. And with being Asian, mixed race, I grew up between two worlds, right? Where I am very Thai, I'm French, I sound American, I fit in everywhere, but also fit in nowhere. I'm a foreigner in my home country and a foreigner in my home country. So that feeling of never quite fitting into a box was very familiar for me. When I discovered mentors in like the self-help world, I was like, oh my God, a framework, I'm gonna fit into this box. Because a lot of my life, I feel like I don't really fit in anywhere. I resonated with these figures because they were so certain. They were so decisive. For a long time, I wanted that like really strong sense of identity, and I found that in Hermosi. Stephen Barley, when he first started the podcast, I was listening to that on like my school lunches, and I felt like it resonated. There's a side of me where it can push, perform, hustle, and lock in. Those sides absolutely exist, but there's also a side of me where I like play, I like beauty, I like creativity. And I think that's why Elle Woods really hit hard when I rewatched it recently, is she doesn't sacrifice any of that.
Hi, Woods, Elle.
Class schedule, map, book list.
Wait a second, my social events calendar is missing.
Your what?
Social events, you know, mixers, formals, clam bakes, trips to the Cape. Okay.
I feel like sometimes with masculine ambition, and I say this with like full respect, sometimes they treat softness as a liability. Sometimes these creators have become so soulless. Sometimes I feel like they treat the emotional and the aesthetic and the joyful parts of being a woman as something to manage or suppress in service of the goal. I think that's where a lot of smart, hot, ambitious women loses themselves, where they burn out, where they feel kind of lost in what they're doing. Here's what I think. Femininity is not the opposite of ambition. That we live in a culture that sometimes treats masculine traits as competence, as capability, and somehow treats empathy, warmth, or softness as distractions from being competent, where I think it's a superpower. And that's going to change and redefine modern ambition. If you had the chance to watch the interview between Tony Robbins and Alex Hormozi, I think that's the start. I think the next wave of ambition, not just for women, but for men as well, are going to be soul-led entrepreneurs. I could talk ages about it, but there's so much factors that play into this, like the rise of AI, right? Like people want to feel something. They no longer want to be desensitized by seeing AI-generated slop, and like we become so desensitized, okay? And that's why a lot of friend group creators are blowing up on social media right now as well, because people want a sense of connection. Those are the 4 lessons you can take away from Elle Woods. And here's what I actually want you to leave with. Not another framework, not another system, not another step-by-step on how to achieve your dream life. Like, I want that for you, girl, but I wanted to make it your way. Like, ambition does not have to look the same your entire life. The minute you understand that your ambition evolves with you, the minute you break the blueprint that's no longer serving you. We have this idea that, oh my God, a blueprint works, so I need to stick to it, right? They can work, but as you evolve, that has to evolve with you too. Your ambition is allowed to be fun. Your ambition is allowed to be whimsical, not chasing whatever version of hard work is on trend that year. Elle Woods worked damn hard, but she didn't lose herself in the process. If that resonated and you're watching along and something in you is like, yeah, this is my vibe, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button, because this is the type of conversations I want to be having. The type of conversation I want to have on here is giving you advice that actually evolves with you over time, that you can actually use for life. That's not just going to turn into another trend, another hype. I want advice that's going to be timeless with you, that you can revisit at different parts of your life and like, oh, this means something different for me now. Because that's my vibe. And if that's your vibe too, follow along. This is where we go beyond.